Want to learn crochet basics and make a stylish bralette worth wearing in just a few hours? Hey guys, I'm T, maker of 600 plus patterns and tutorials. Welcome to the channel. In today's tutorial, we're keeping it simple but stylish with this beginner-friendly bralette. Made with the Suzette stitch for a gorgeous textured look, it's quick, easy, and perfect whether you're making it for your first crochet garment or adding another staple piece to your handmade wardrobe. If you're new here, welcome. I share modern crochet patterns and tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday, so tell a friend, tap the bell, and subscribe so you never miss an upload. And if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it helps keep these tutorials free. So without further ado, here's how to make your own Suzette stitch bralette. Any category 4 yarn will work. I used a total of 115 grams, that's 300 yards if you're stateside, along with a 5mm hook. Pattern link below. Use code TCDDIY for a discount on orders over $9.99. Stay to the end for this week's pattern giveaway. We're using 4 stitches for this top. They're on screen now. Pause to check them out. This tutorial is for size small. You can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video. So without further ado, here's how to crochet your own stylish bralette. Getting this romantic bralette started, we're kicking things off with the foundation, which is the waistband. So we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn, make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook, and we're all going to start by making a chain the height that we'd like for the bottom band to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 12. Now the waistband is the anchor to this entire piece. We're about to focus on stretch, comfort, and the clean shaping right from the start. Now once we have our chain, we're all going to start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then we're going to begin with our slip stitch row. Now for this part, we'll be working into the back bumps of the chain. That's our go-to for a clean and stretchy edge. But if you're more comfortable with working into the front loops into the chain, that's totally fine too. I get asked all the time if working the back bumps are required for garments, and unless it's specifically stated, they're not. But since we're here together, let's give the back bumps a try and see how it feels. Y'all just might fall in love with it too. What we're going to do is into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to flip our work literally, and we're going to find the back bumps, or as I also have called it, into the spine of our chain. Then from here, we're going to slip stitch into there. So making sure that we're using a medium tension, we're going to insert our hook in through that back bump. Now if you guys need to use your fingers to separate it like how I am right here, that's completely fine as well. Once we have these 2 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over and gently pull through both loops on our hook. Now when it comes to doing our slip stitches, we want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly, otherwise the falling row might be a little hard to work into, so let's do this again. Now if you guys have noticed, once we worked our first slip stitch, our chain has kind of just miraculously turned over so that the back bumps are being shown right here. That's perfect, so all we're going to do is just insert our hook into that next back bump, yarn over, gently pull through both loops on our hook. And that's basically it. That's our slip stitches into the back bump. Again, into that next chain, insert, yarn over, gently pull through everything on our hook. Continue with 1 slip stitch into every stitch. Now working into the back bumps of your foundation chain actually mirrors the tops of your stitches. This is the bottom of my chain, and if we flip our work over, we can tell that the tops of our stitches actually looks the same. This is especially handy if the edges are going to be visible, but in this case we're doing it for the seam. When we wrap up the band, that outside loop slip stitch seam will blend right in, looking like another tidy row of back loop slip stitches. Now if you work into the front loops of the chain, which you can do, no harm done if that's preferred, but you might get some gaps or a looser edge. Back bump stitching typically keeps things snug, symmetrical, and ready for a seamless finish. Our first slip stitch row is completed. Now we're going to be doing more slip stitches, but now within the back loops to give us a really nice stretch. So what we're going to do is chain 1, that is our turning chain, and flip our work. And from here, just find the back loop. So taking a look at the last stitch from our previous row, this is it right here. We're going to insert our hook into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. Then we're going to insert all the way through when we have these 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through both loops on our hook. That is our first back loop slip stitch. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch's back loop, we're going to insert, yarn over, gently pull through everything, and from here continue with 1 back loop slip into every stitch. We've made our way down with our row 2. We should have the same amount of stitches as our previous row. Now we're going to do more back loop slip stitch rows. So we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and repeat. So just into that first stitch's back loop, Gently pull through everything and continue with one back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and that's it. For the rest of this waistband, all we're going to do is chain 1, flip our work, then just continue on until we now have a waistband that can stretch around the widest part of our bust, because remember, this does have a decent amount of stretch to it because we're working into the back loops. Then I'll meet everyone back once we have rows that is in multiples of 3 plus 2, then we can seam everything together. And if your back loop slip stitches feel tight or stubborn, you're not alone, I promise. It sometimes takes a few rounds to find the groove, but the payoff, that crisp rib finish that looks straight off the rack. Waistband complete. I have a total of 116 rows. That's just about 19.5 inches or 49 centimeters, remember, unstretched. Now what we're going to do from here is wrap it up by seaming everything together. So we're going to fold our work in half, making sure that nothing's twisted, then insert our hook into both corner stitches of our waistband. So seaming up our waistband, it's going to be like I said in one of our previous clips, which is an outside loop slip stitch seam. So we're going to yarn over and pull through everything, chain 1, and that's just to secure everything down. Then all we're going to do from here is take a look at the front panel of our waistband, and we're going to find that first stitch's front loop. So this is the top of my first stitch right here. As you can see, this is my front. This is my back loop. I'm going to insert into that front loop only, or the loop that's nearest to us. Once we have that, we're going to find that first available stitch on the back panel. This is why we worked into the back bumps to have these top loops for us. We're going to insert our hook into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch, into the front panel, we're going to insert only in through that front loop, or the loop that's nearest to us. Taking a look at the back panel, we're going to insert our hook only into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. Insert, yarn over, gently pull through all 3 loops, and we're going to continue doing this, making our way down. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you back. We have just seamed our waistband. Now we're going to prep for our Suzette stitch detail. So right after our seam, we're going to chain 1 and do a single crochet row. Now working our single crochet row on top of our waistband, all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet in through every side row that we have. Now finding each side row when it comes to our slip stitches is pretty easy. What we're going to do is find our first side row. This is mine right here, which is this divot. So I'm going to find a top loop. There isn't going to be a real top loop for us to work into, so we're just going to kind of trace this up, find a top loop. This looks like a good one for me. I'm going to insert with just 1 single crochet, and that is my first stitch for this row. Now following our following side row, this raised row is my next row. So now I'm going to find that top loop. There's not going to be a real top loop for us to work into, so we're just going to find a loop to work into, insert, and commit with a single crochet again. So basically 1 single crochet into every divot and raised row. Let's do that again. My next side row is this divot. I'm going to find that top loop. The divots are a little bit easier because we kind of have these edge loops to work into. So insert into there with just 1. Then in through our next side row, which is this raised row. This one might be a little bit more difficult, so I'm just going to find a top loop into the top of that raised row and single crochet, and that's it. We're going to continue with 1 single crochet into every side row, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you back. But just as a really quick tip, we should all end up with the same amount of stitches as rows that we made for the waistband. We made our way around with our single crochet row. Now we're going to slip stitch it into that first chain that we made when we started this row to close it off. So what we're going to do is finding that chain space that we made right in between the seam and the single crochet row. If you guys can see, this is my chain space right here. I'm going to insert my hook in through that chain space and just yarn over, pull through everything on my hook. Now really quickly, that slip stitch connection looks like an extra stitch. It's not. That's just to connect. So keep that in mind once we're doing our falling rows. But before we get started on our falling Suzette stitch detail, we want to try on our piece. This single crochet row will be as wide as this part can stretch. So try your piece on, making sure that it's still fitting over your bust and nice and comfortably. If it's not, you can always reduce some stitches with a tighter grip if it's a little too loose, or if it's too loose, you can always redo some of your stitches with a tighter grip. But once when everything is fitted nicely, we can now get started on the bust detail, which is the Suzette stitch. Now from here, we're all going to make an odd number chain that reaches up to the depth that we would like for our neckline to be. This is going to be right where the V-neck starts to split. So if you would like to cover a little bit more, go ahead and make a longer chain. Or if you would like to show a little bit more, make a shorter chain. But that part's completely up to you. So I already went ahead and measured mine out. I wanted roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making a chain 9. Once we have our chain, we're going to do our Suzette stitch. So block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Now the Suzette stitch is a basic stitch that anyone can learn. If you already know how to do your basic stitches, you're already there. So what we're going to do is into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a single crochet and double crochet. So into that chain, we're going to insert, starting with 1 single crochet, into that same chain with a double crochet. So yarn over, same chain, insert with 1 double crochet. Now that is our first Suzette stitch. Pretty easy, right? We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down. Now just some fun facts when it comes to doing the Suzette stitches. After we finish a Suzette stitch, we want to make sure that we're skipping the stitch that's right after, because that double crochet actually counts as that stitch. If we work into there, we will accidentally be increasing. So we're going to skip that next stitch, into the next, insert with 1 single crochet, same stitch with 1 double crochet. Now we should have 1, 2 Suzette stitches so far for our row 1. Let's do this once more. We're going to skip a stitch, into the next we're going to insert with a single, same stitch with a double, and from here we're going to continue to skip a stitch and into the next single crochet and double crochet until we all have a total of 2 chains left. Now once we made our way down to the end of our row 1, we should all have 2 chains left. Now how we're going to close off our sedge stitches is just 1 half double crochet into the last chain. So yarn over. We're going to skip that second to last, and into that last chain we're going to insert with 1 half double crochet. So insert, we should have 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 3. And now our row 1 is complete. Since we didn't do any increases or decreases, we should still have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. Now connecting it into the base, which is that single crochet row that we did on the top of our waistband, we're going to connect it. So how we're going to connect our Suzette stitch row into the base is by counting up 2 stitches. Now we're counting up 2 stitches because the height of this half double crochet is just a little bit too high to be working into that next stitch. So we're going to count up 1, count up 2. Into that second stitch, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch into the base does not count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then we do need to work our way up to the following row as well, so just into that next stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. Now we're just slip stitching up 1 stitch because when we do our first Suzette stitch for the following row, it's going to start with a single crochet, which is just a hair shorter than the half double crochet that we ended with. We all want to make sure that we're not working into any of those slip stitches into the base, because remember that's just to connect. So into that last stitch from our previous row, which is our half double crochet, we're going to insert into the top of that loop with 1 single crochet, and then also with 1 double crochet, so Suzette stitch per usual. After that we are going to skip 1 stitch, into the next single and double, and continue on with this until we have 2 stitches left. Now another quick tip when it comes to doing the Suzette stitch, every Suzette stitch will be worked into our previous row's single crochet. So since we just finished this one, we are going to skip that following stitch, that's per usual, and into that next we're going to do our Suzette stitch. We can tell that that is the correct one because it is a little bit shorter than this first stitch right here. So insert with a single and a double, then I'll meet you back when we all have 2 stitches left. Our row 2 is nearly completed. We should all have 2 stitches left. If it looks like we just have 1 stitch left, turn your work over and you can clearly see that there's 2 stitches left. The first one is just a little bit on the edge. What we're going to do to close it off is like our previous row, half double crochet into that last. So yarn over, skip that second to last, into that last with 1 half double crochet, and our row 2 is completed. We should all still have the same amount of stitches as our previous row. Now to do our row 3, we're going to chain 1 and flip our work. Now we're going to Suzette all the way down. It's going to be done the same way as our previous rows, so just to do the first one, into that first stitch from our previous row, insert with 1 single, 1 double, skip a stitch, and another Suzette stitch until we all have 2 stitches left. Now when sketching out this top, we actually already made this into a dress. That link will be down below if you want it. We wanted some texture that was simple and easy for beginners, but also not too plain. The Suzette stitch was an obvious choice. It's such a sweet match with just the right amount of texture. It works up in a dense, soft, kind of pebbly fabric that has its own movement, but a whole lot of charm. It's got visual interest without any fuss, so it makes it a total win for everyone. Our row 3 is nearly complete. To close it off, we're going to half double crochet into that last stitch again, so yarn over, skip that second to last stitch, into that last, insert with 1 half double crochet, and let's just connect it into the base together once more. Connecting our odd number rows into the base is we're going to count up the next 2 available stitches, because remember that half double is just a little bit too tall to work into that next stitch. So we're going to skip 1, into that next, insert with a slip stitch. Now our row 3 is nice and connected. Now to get started on our row 4, since we're here, we might as well slip stitch up just that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and Suzette stitch all the way down. Now from here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 previous rows with no increases, no decreases, until we don't have any more stitches into the base left to work into. Then when this lovely texture is locked in, it's time to switch gears and build up the height and add some structure for the neckline. Suzette's stitched. Since our waistband used multiples of 3 plus 2, the final Suzette stitch row lands right at the base. That way we can seam without snipping our yarn or dealing with any extra tail ends. Because in case if y'all haven't noticed, I do have some paint on my hands and nails because we've been painting the room. So we don't have quite a lot of time, and y'all deserve fewer ends to weave in as well. So now we're going to flip it over so we can seam it before the paint dries. So once when our work is flipped wrong side out, what we're going to do is just single crochet in through both the front and the back panel at the same time. So finding that first stitch into the front panel, we're going to insert our hook in through there. First stitch into the back panel, we're going to insert our hook in through there. Then we're just going to single crochet everything together. Super duper simple. Let's do this once more. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert. Next stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet. And we're just going to continue on with our single crochet row till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. We have just completed seaming up the Suzette stitch detail, and we have flipped our work right side out, meaning the seam for the band is along the outside, but the seam for the Suzette stitch detail is now along the inside. Now we're laying down a prep row to set the stage for our neckline, and those dreamy cups come up right after. Now that's going to be super simple. We're just going to single crochet along the edge of our Suzette stitch rows with 2. So finding our first side row, this is my side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop, which we're not going to have any actual loops to work into. We're just going to find one and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 into that same with a second. Next, we're going to do just 1 single crochet into that next side row. The next one's going to be a little bit easier because we are going to have this decent sized gap right here. We're going to work 1 single crochet in through there. Now let's do the next one again. This is my next side row. You can kind of tell because the end of that is a little bit more full. We're going to find a top loop and insert with 2 single crochets in through there. Then into that next side row, you can tell that this is it because we have that gap. Just 1 single crochet in through there. Keep alternating 1 and 2 single crochets per side row. By the end, our stitch count should match the waistband rows that we have. Easy peasy. Our single crochet prep row is checked off the list. We are all done with this part. Now we're going to add some height with half doubles. This part's all about smooth stitches and steady growth. So right after our single crochet row and we have slip stitched into that chain space, we are going to cut. Then we're going to place this seam, so where our waistband seam is and where the Suzette stitch seam is, off to the side, because once we wear it, we want it to be on the side of our body to make it a little bit easier to hide. Having the side seam lined up with the underarm, we're going to add 2 stitch markers somewhere near the center. Now it doesn't need to be a specific count, just keep the seams where they belong, and the stitch markers will be starting the point of our V-neck. Then, once we have our stitch markers into place, we're going to insert our hook into one of our stitch marker stitches and just half double crochet all the way around. So go ahead and insert your yarn onto your hook. We are going to pull through and start with a chain 2. Now that chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, we just want the height. Then working our way towards the back, we're going to put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, and the first half double crochet will be worked into the same stitch that our chain 2's in. So yarn over, into that same stitch that our chain 2's in, we're going to insert. Now is also the opportune time to weave in our ends as we go. We're going to pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. Again, yarn over into that next stitch, we're going to insert our hook, And since I am weaving in my ends as I go, I'm just going to make sure that my tail end stays over the stitch that I'm working into and half double crochet around everything. Once more, yarn over. Into that next stitch, I'm going to insert, placing my tail end over my hook, and half double crochet. Continue with one half double crochet into every stitch, and I'll meet you back once we're worked into our following stitch marker stitch. Now at this point, we're adding some height with half doubles. This part's all about smooth stitches and steady growth. We're shaping the V neckline as we go, laying the foundation for those sculpted sturdy cups up next. Half double crochet row, done and dusted. Now we're going to do another half double crochet row that starts and ends with a decrease and in the back loops. So what we're going to do is chain 2 and flip. Now how we do a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles is yarn over. We're all going to start by inserting our hook into that first stitch's back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. We're going to insert, pull through to get a total of 3 loops on our hook. Then into that following stitch as well, into that back loop, insert, pull through to get a total of 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4. From here, 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2. So to do our half double crochet within the back loops, yarn over, into that next stitch's back loop, pull through 3. So same as a normal half double, just within the back loops. Then I'll meet everyone back when we all have 2 stitches left. We've made our way around with our second half double crochet row, leaving the last 2 stitches. Now just like how we began this row, we're going to close it off with a decrease. So again, yarn over, into that second to last stitch's back loop, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through, then into that last stitch's back loop as well, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. From here, yarn over and pull through all 4. Now so far for our chest height, we have our first single crochet prep row, our first half double crochet row, then our second half double crochet row that starts and ends with a decrease of 2 back loop halves. What we're doing from here is continue to repeat these 2 previous rows. So 1 back loop half double crochet row, then another back loop half double crochet row that starts and ends with a decrease until it reaches 1 inch below our underarm. That keeps the armhole nice and comfy. So make sure the waistband stays snug at your underbust and just finish on an even half double crochet row. We are back. Everything is looking fantastic. The height of our underarm portion is completed. Now just this height that we have is 2.5 inches or 7 centimeters because I did a total of 6 rows, and that is just counting my half double crochet rows, not that single crochet prep row. Or my total height that I have is just about 7 inches or 18 centimeters. Now what we're going to do from here is work on our cups. Now let's drop in some stitch markers to frame where those cups and back panels will live. For the cups, we're going to insert our stitch markers into an even numbered stitch from the outer edge that's nearest to the corner of our underarm. Now for those of you that have my numbers, I went ahead and inserted my stitch marker into the 22nd stitch from the outer edge. That width is just about 6 inches or 15 centimeters, and I did the same thing on both sides. We're also going to need to map out the back panel. Now for the back panel, just like the front, we're going to insert our stitch marker into an even numbered stitch from the outer edge that's nearest to the corner of our underarm, but within the back, so on the other side of our arm. For those of you that have my numbers, I went ahead and inserted my stitch marker into the 30th stitch from the outer edge. Once we have that, we're going to repeat that same back panel stitch marker on the other side as well. These are my back panel stitch markers, and from back panel stitch marker all the way across to the next, that's just about 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to get started on our left cup. So making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to work on the left cup first. It is the left cup when we're looking at it, but once we put it on, it will be the right cup. But to get this started, since we were only decreasing at the beginning and end of every other row that we had, we're going to keep up with that slant that we have for the V-neck. So our following row should be an odd number row. So all we're going to do is chain 2, flip our work, then just put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until we have 1 stitch left right before our first stitch marker. Then I'll meet you back to do a decrease. We've half double crocheted all the way down, leaving 1 stitch right before our stitch marker. Now we're going to do a decrease of 2. So go ahead and take out our stitch marker and into the next 2 stitches, decrease. So yarn over, into that next stitch's back loop, pull through, into that next stitch's back loop, pull through to get 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4, and this first cup row is completed. To do the next one, we're all going to chain 2 and flip. Now we're going to start and end the row with a decrease. So since we are along the outer edge, we would like for this slant to have a really smooth curve around our arm. So we're going to yarn over, insert into that first stitch's back loop, pull through, next stitch's back loop, pull through all 4, then continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, meeting back when we have just 2 stitches left. We made our way down with our second row, leaving the last 2 stitches of the row. Now we're going to decrease. So yarn over into that second to last back loop, pull through into that last back loop, pull through to get a total of 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4. So since our first 2 cup rows are completed, we're just going to continue to repeat these 2 previous rows until our cups narrow down all the way until we get the strap width that we want. And that's up to you. You can keep it chunky or dainty. That's your call. So as a refresher, our odd number rows will just be 1 back loop half into every stitch, closing off the row with a decrease. Then our even number rows will start and end with a decrease with back loop halves into every stitch in between. I'll meet everyone back right after an even numbered row. Then we can work straight into the strap together from there. We are back. The height of our cup is completed. Now just counting the cup rows, I have a total of 10 rows completed. This height is just about 4.5 inches or 11 centimeters, or my total height is now just about 11 inches or 28 centimeters. Now from here, all we're going to do are back loop half double crochet rows, no increases, no decreases, until we have a portion that can reach the top of our shoulder. So just to do the first row, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work, and simply put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip, and repeat. Once we have the height of our straps completed, do a chain up a 1 and cut right after that last row. Then I'll meet you back so we can get started on the other cup together. First, cup and strap completed. Counting from my first cup row to my last strap row, I have a total of 14 rows. That height is now just about 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters, and now my total height is just about 13 inches or 33 centimeters. Now we're going to repeat this on the other side. But since we would like to keep up with the ribbing, we're going to insert our hook into the underarm stitch that we have on the right side of our piece. So making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to take a look at our right cup now, but once we wear it, it will be the left cup. We're going to insert our hook into that underarm stitch marker and insert into that back loop. Now we're going to half double crochet towards the front. So go ahead and insert your yarn onto your hook. Once when our yarn is on our hook, we're all going to pull through and start with a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch. We just want the height. Then we're going to start with a decrease, starting with that same back loop that our chain 2's in. So yarn over into that same back loop that our chain 2's worked into. We're going to insert, yarn over, pull through into that next stitch, making sure we're working towards the front, into that back loop as well, pull through to get 4 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 4. So our decrease is basically the same. Then from here, we're going to be putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. First right cup row completed. Now we're going to do our next one. Our next row is going to start and end with a decrease. So chain 2 and flip. So start the row with a decrease per usual. So in that first stitch, second stitch, yarn over, pull through 4. Then 1 back loop half into every stitch, leaving the last 2 so we can decrease again. We've just put 1 back loop half into every stitch, leaving the last 2 stitches. Now to close out the row with a decrease again, we're going to insert into that second to last, also into that last, and decrease. Now the right cup is very similar to the left cup. For our odd number rows, we're starting with a decrease because we are along the outer edge, then 1 back loop half into every stitch. Then for our even number rows, decrease into the beginning and the ends of the row with 1 back loop half into every stitch in between. So same as our left cup, but opposite. Now what we're going to do from here is continue to repeat these 2 previous rows for the same amount of cup height rows that we have. Then we'll meet back to do the strap together again. The height of our right cup is completed. We have the same amount of rows as the left. Now we're going to do the same strap rows that we had for the left. Now I went ahead and already did that because it's just back loop half double crochets for the same amount of rows as our left cup. Wrap up our strap rows, back panels next. So when it comes to doing the back panel, we are all going to have a solid back panel, and this is for extra coverage and extra support for the girlies that need support for the girlies. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to make sure the work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then insert our hook, making sure that we're inserting it into the right stitch marker stitch and working our way across our back because we want to keep up with the ribbing. We're going to start and end the row with a decrease with back loop halves into every stitch in between. So once we have our hook into that same stitch marker stitch, insert your yarn onto your hook. Then we're going to pull through and do a chain 2. That chain 2 is just for the height, and start with a decrease with that same stitch that our chain 2 is in. So yarn over into that same stitch's back loop, pull through, next stitch's back loop, pull through and yarn over, pull through 4. From here, making sure that we're working across our back, continue with 1 back loop half into every stitch, leaving 1 stitch right before our next stitch marker. We've made our way across with our back loop halves, leaving 1 stitch right before our next stitch marker. Now again, decrease of 2 back loop halves. Yarn over, next stitch's back loop, pull through, next stitch's back loop, pull through 4. Now for the back panel, it's going to be super simple, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it because we've basically already done this, just much smaller for the cups. All we're going to do is start and end the rows with a decrease of 2 back loop halves with 1 back loop half into every stitch in between for the same amount of rows as our cup height, so not including the strap rows. Once we have that completed, I'll meet everyone back just so we can work straight up with the rest of our rows, then connect everything together. We have just completed shaping the back. We have the same amount of rows as our cup height rows. Now from here, we're just going to continue on with back loop half double crochet rows, no increases, no decreases for the same amount of rows that we have for the front panel straps. So for me, that was an additional 4 rows, and I actually already have that completed. So this is the entirety of what our back panel should be looking like. Now that the back panel is complete, it's time to make like the Avengers and assemble, meaning we're going to seam the shoulders, so flip your work wrong side out. So now that we have flipped our work wrong side out, what we're going to do is seam up our shoulders, and the way that we're going to seam up our shoulders, we're going to seam it from the middle out, then work straight into the single crochet row along the outside of our armhole just to clean it up as well, mainly because I don't want to weave in more tail ends. So what we're going to do is take the amount of stitches that we have for our last front panel strap row. We're going to count in from the outer edge of the back panel the same amount of stitches, then insert our hook. So for those of you that have my numbers, I ended with a total of 7 stitches for my front panel strap. So I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch that's nearest to the middle of my piece. Then I'm going to count in from the back corner 7 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to insert my hook into that 7th stitch. Then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook. We're going to pull our working yarn through, do a chain up of 1 just to secure, and working out towards the outer edge of our piece, we're going to single crochet seam exactly the same way that we did our Suzette stitch detail seam. So just do the first one, find that first stitch into the front panel, insert, first stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet, and continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do not do a chain up of 1 and cut, because then we work straight into the single crochet along the edge of our armhole together from there. Alright, so we have just completed seaming up our shoulders, and now we're going to single crochet along our armhole. So what we're going to do, since we are still attached to our shoulder seam, we're going to make sure that our work is now flipped right side out, meaning the shoulder seams are now along the inside. Then we're just going to single crochet all the way around. So I'm going to flip my work over, and making sure I'm working in the direction that shows my single crochets, I am going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, making our way all the way around my armhole. So we're all going to chain 1, that doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to get started on the row. Then finding our first side row, this is my first side half double crochet row right here. I'm going to insert my hook into that top loop and insert, starting with just 1 single crochet. This is my following side half double crochet row, so I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, let's do that again. This is my following side half double crochet row. Find that top loop and insert with just 1. This is my next side half double crochet row. Find that top loop and insert with 2. We're going to continue with this single crochet sequence, making our way all the way down and around. And as a quick tip, over our armhole we are going to reach some regular stitches. Just put 1 single crochet into each of those. Once we do, slip stitch into that chain space, but do make sure that it's sitting comfortably once when you try it on. If the armhole gets a little bit too tight, you can go ahead and redo some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, redo some stitches with a tighter grip per usual. Then repeat on the other side, then I'll meet you back. We are almost done. 5 minutes, I promise. We have just completed cleaning up our armholes. Now we're just going to clean up our neckline. Now we already know how to do all these steps, so I'm not going to bore you guys with those details, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. We're going to make sure that our work is slipped right side out, right side up. Insert our hook into any stitch that we have into our neckline. I prefer next to the seams just so it's a little bit easier to hide. Then working our way down our side rows, alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets in through every side row, starting with 1. Then once we reach the top of the back, just 1 single crochet into every stitch. Make your way all the way around, then slip stitch into that chain space and cut. Our single crochet row along the neckline is completed, nice and clean, looking right, so now we are all done. The last thing we have to do is simply weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if y'all use a daily planner or wing it day to day. I do my best to have a schedule, but a lot of things pop up daily, so it's kind of hard, so I mainly wing it. Details for the giveaway down below. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or X. Those links are down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!